Hi, everyone, and a warm welcome back to Mindsprout Books, the channel where we explore holistic self-development through the wisdom of books. Today, I want to share a book that teaches us how to achieve success, titled Mindset: Changing the Way You Think to Fulfill Your Potential. Unlike many other books on the same topic, it doesn't give you a formula for getting rich, nor does it list a set of rules for success. Instead, it shows us that our success and achievements depend entirely on our mindset and how we view our own abilities. The author, Dr. Carol S. Dweck, is a distinguished scholar in the fields of behavioral, social, and developmental psychology. She has been a professor at Columbia University and is now a professor of psychology at Stanford University, as well as a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Through her years of research, she shows us that by simply recognizing and understanding the mindset behind our actions and choices, we can absolutely grow, improve ourselves, and shape our own future. And now, let's dive into our summary, the core mindset for growth from the book Mindset. Throughout the book, the author introduces the concept and contrast between two critical mindsets that influence our success and personal development: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. What is a fixed mindset? It's the belief that our abilities are set in stone and don't need to change. In contrast, a growth mindset is the belief that our abilities can be improved through learning and relentless effort. It sounds simple, but the real challenge lies in understanding the paradox behind our own behavior. Why is it that, even when we know change is necessary for growth, many of us still believe we don't need to change? Why? Despite understanding that effort and hard work are the keys to progress, do we struggle to stay persistent and diligent? The most crucial factor in achieving success is your mindset. To succeed, you need a growth mindset. In reality, both fixed and growth mindsets exist all around us and even within us simultaneously. You might even be operating with a false growth mindset. It's not easy to label someone as purely one or the other. That's why we need to truly understand the nature of the fixed mindset, uncover the factors that hold us back from real progress, and find ways to transition to and apply a growth mindset in our lives. The author points out 5 key areas to look at to recognize your own mindset. 1. How you view evaluation from others and yourself. The first area is to re-examine how you perceive external evaluation and how you judge yourself. This is also the core obstacle to genuine progress. Evaluation is something none of us can escape. Every day we judge others, and others judge us. Some things have clear evaluation criteria, like exams. However, many things don't have a specific standard. For example, whether a home-cooked meal is delicious depends mainly on the family's taste. Therefore, most evaluations are subjective and don't carry much weight. Still, because evaluation is a crucial form of human interaction, it profoundly affects our emotions and actions. The author conducted an experiment with a group of 4-year-olds to see if they would choose an easy puzzle or a more challenging one. The result was that many children chose the easy one to avoid making mistakes. This is a classic sign of a fixed mindset. For these children, the goal wasn't the fun of tackling a harder challenge, but completing the easy one to receive positive feedback. This irrational behavior follows us from childhood into adulthood. The author asked many people, "When do you feel smart?" Those with a fixed mindset often replied, "When I don't make any mistakes, when I finish a task quickly and perfectly, or when I can solve a problem that others can't." These answers show that they constantly use others as a benchmark, crave perfection, and fear failure. Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset typically answered, "When I overcome a very difficult task that I couldn't do before through sheer effort, or when I've been working on something for a long time and finally have a breakthrough." These responses show they care more about their willingness to face challenges and whether they are making progress, rather than focusing on external validation. Someone who only craves praise and fears criticism will find it impossible to assess themselves objectively. People with a fixed mindset live in a constant conflict between proving themselves and protecting their fragile egos. If they receive positive feedback, they feel happy, but also anxious about losing it in the future. If they receive negative feedback, they are deeply hurt, may lose emotional control, argue with others, or become sad and need time to recover. At this point, they often swing between two extremes, arrogance and insecurity. Leaning towards arrogance, they tend to believe they are superior to others, that no one can do things as well as they can, and they expect everyone around them to follow their lead. Why do some people immediately get defensive, upset, or angry when someone disagrees with them? It's because they feel, "You have your fixed view, and I have mine. If you challenge my fixed view with yours, you are in the wrong. You are challenging my authority and my ego." Consequently, they become even more stubborn in their beliefs, convinced they don't need to change. On the other hand, when leaning towards insecurity, many tend to hide their feelings of inadequacy. They avoid difficulties and challenges. When faced with life's tasks, they often choose not to even try, because if you don't say or do anything, you can't make a mistake. Consider this experiment. At the University of Hong Kong, all courses are taught in English. For a new student not yet proficient in the language, the logical choice would be to quickly improve their English skills. However, when the author surveyed whether students wanted to take extra English classes, many replied, "I'm not interested." They would rather accept poor academic results than confront their own weaknesses. This is the essence of a fixed mindset. Protecting one's perceived abilities, refusing to change, and it's the core reason why someone fails to truly progress. I admit that I had a fixed mindset back in my school days. I was hesitant to raise my hand to speak or ask questions. Looking back, I realize I was facing the issue with a fixed mindset. A person with a growth mindset would see making a mistake as an opportunity. If I say something wrong, it's okay, because by speaking up, the teacher will know and can correct me. It's like the Jewish tradition of education, where they encourage their children to speak up immediately if they have a different opinion in class, because if they don't, the teacher can't help them learn. This is the foundation for instilling a growth mindset in children. 2. Your first reaction to adversity. Another crucial aspect is to look at your initial reaction when things don't go as planned. Imagine a scenario like this. You leave home in the morning and get a traffic ticket. You arrive at the office late and get reprimanded by your boss. During a meeting, your ideas are rejected by your manager. And when you get home, you have a huge argument with your partner. How would you react? A person with a fixed mindset would think, "This day is a complete disaster, just awful," followed by a cascade of negative emotions. They'll jump to the worst conclusions. This job isn't for me. My partner doesn't even understand me. The whole world is against me. Life is so unfair. In contrast, people with a growth mindset don't easily identify with these negative feelings. Their first reaction is to focus on improvement and finding solutions instead of complaining. Next time, I need to be more careful when I'm driving. I'll manage my time better and wake up a bit earlier. Why was my idea rejected in the meeting? Was my presentation unclear? What important lesson can I learn from my boss's feedback? They also won't carry that negativity home and demand that their loved ones make them feel better. This is the perspective a person with a growth mindset takes. A classic example is the tennis player John McEnroe. He was a huge star in his time, but his career was surprisingly short. Why? Because he was known for having a fixed mindset. When he played poorly, he would blame the racket, the umpire, or the noisy crowd. On the other hand, look at golf legend Tiger Woods. In his sport, the environment is also critical. The sound of spectators talking, cameras clicking, or phones ringing can affect a player's performance. An athlete with a fixed mindset would get angry, criticize the audience and organizers, and argue with them. But Tiger Woods' method was to have his father train with him, intentionally making noise, startling him, and even throwing things at him as he swung. Tiger used this type of training to adapt to a noisy environment, a perfect example of a growth mindset. As a result, his career has been incredibly long and durable. In truth, the act of blaming the outside world is a psychological defense mechanism to comfort oneself. When something bad happens, it's because the exam was much harder than last year's, or my roommate kept bothering me, so I was in a bad mood, which affected my work. As the famous coach John Wooden once said, "The moment you start blaming others, you've already lost." Therefore, to break free from the fixed mindset pattern, we need to learn to face and adjust our initial reactions to difficulties. Instead of complaining, aim for improvement and proactively train yourself. These initial reactions are the foundation that will enable you to overcome challenges and grow stronger. 3. Your view on effort. The next aspect is your perspective on effort. Do you believe that while hard work is necessary, success ultimately requires innate talent? If your answer is yes, you likely have a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that natural talent and intelligence are what make a person successful. When you think this way, you inadvertently limit yourself. Have you ever noticed that in school, there was always that one kid who seemed to get high grades without studying day and night like you did? There's always a golden child like that. And many people either feel envious or admire them, assuming they were born with a gift while they weren't as lucky. In reality, those high-achieving students might have been working hard quietly at home, but they just didn't like to show off their struggles. Your mindset and that of your peers reflects a common truth. Everyone knows that hard work is crucial for learning, yet being diligent isn't seen as something to be proud of. People prefer to be praised for being talented or smart, rather than being acknowledged for their effort. This is because being called talented makes you stand out from the crowd. However, this way of thinking makes it easy for people to make excuses for themselves. It doesn't matter if I try or not, the result will be the same. This leads to a reluctance to put in the effort to practice and persevere. Over time, they tend to choose jobs that they can do well without much effort. A question arises here. Can we be certain that if we work hard and pursue growth, we will actually develop? The answer is yes. Growth means making an effort to improve our abilities in a certain area, and growth is inevitable because our brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Secondly, remember that everything can be learned. So, as long as you are willing to learn, you will definitely make progress. The author of this book once held a workshop for children on growth mindset and neuroscience. Many people believe that whether a person is smart, average, or unintelligent is a fixed trait for life. But the author explained that the brain is a mysterious organ. Like a muscle, it can change. The more you use your brain, the stronger it becomes. The more you challenge yourself to learn, the more your brain cells will grow. Things you once thought were incredibly difficult, like learning a new subject or solving an algebra problem, become easier with regular practice because your brain has been strengthened. Do you think drawing is a talent that only a select few possess? Betty Edwards once held a 5-day drawing class. Participants who had no talent but studied diligently were able to draw beautiful self-portraits by the end. People think drawing is a talent because they don't understand the fundamental components of the skill. In reality, drawing well depends less on the skill of the hand and more on the skill of observation. It's the ability to perceive relationships between edges, spaces, objects, light, shadow, and the whole composition. Drawing requires us to learn these component skills and then combine them into a complete process. Of course, some people are naturally gifted and may pick up these skills organically. However, even without innate talent, we can still learn these skills. Therefore, if you want to pursue growth, you must change your perspective on effort. With the belief in pursuing growth and a willingness to learn, you will step out of your comfort zone, give yourself the chance to try, and then focus on persistent practice. You will undoubtedly achieve remarkable growth. 4. Your level of focus on performance. Next, we need to reconsider an overemphasis on achievement. Psychologists measured the brain waves of 2 groups of people, one with a fixed mindset and one with a growth mindset, after they took a test. They found that for the growth mindset group, the brain lit up when they were listening to the analysis of why an answer was right or wrong. For the fixed mindset group, the brain lit up when the results, right or wrong, were announced. The outcome and the score were what mattered most to them. For example, many students are overly concerned with their class rank. I got 8 questions right and 2 wrong on the test, which is fine, as long as others only got 5 or 6 right. They feel happy simply because others did worse. This is a classic fixed mindset. Their brain's point of interest is the result that allows them to be better than someone else, their rank, their performance. People with a fixed mindset like to see others as inferior. When those around them succeed, they feel a sense of disappointment. A person with a growth mindset doesn't think this way because they are willing to learn from those who are stronger than them. 5. How you face failure. And the final aspect is how you view failure: getting fired, failing an exam, getting a bad grade, being rejected. For many people, these are considered failures. When you face failure, do you see it as an action or an identity? A person with a growth mindset sees failure as a temporary action, a part of the learning process. I didn't succeed today, which means I haven't grown yet, but I can change and be better in the future. If not in this, then in another area that suits me. Failure is not something to be feared. It's just a necessary setback on the path forward. But a person with a fixed mindset attaches an identity to the action. I am a failure. They merge their identity with the failure, feeling as if they are incapable of changing, that there's nothing they can do but accept the title of failure. They can't see failure as a lesson for improvement, but only as a sign that they aren't good enough. As a result, they can't make real changes, and at this point, they are already overwhelmed by negative emotions. The aspects above help you distinguish more clearly between a fixed and a growth mindset. Now, let's talk about the specific method to transform a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. Step 1. Let go of the constrained. Ego. From the points above, we can see that the core method to let go of a fixed mindset is to let go of the ego. In Buddhist philosophy, this is akin to the practice of transcending the self, releasing attachments to an arrogant ego or an insecure ego, and letting go of the chains of external validation in order to see yourself objectively and do what you ought to do. When you do that, you'll find that all of life's experiences become much simpler. But this is always the hardest part because our attachment to our ego is very strong. Therefore, the first step in changing your mindset is to let go of the ego. The author offers some advice. First, start by accepting yourself. When you notice yourself having fixed mindset thoughts, don't rush to self-criticism. When you criticize yourself, you are actually sinking deeper into a fixed mindset. Instead, just acknowledge it. I just displayed a fixed mindset. Accept it. I know I have this issue. Second, observe yourself. You need to think carefully about what is causing your anxiety and insecurity. Understand what triggers your fixed mindset. When the fixed mindset takes over, what actions do you choose? When you develop this ability for self-reflection, the concepts you've learned about mindset can truly be put to use. The third step is to remind yourself that a fixed mindset can be changed. This is also very important. Once you have recognized your own mindset patterns, no matter how you feel, you need to remind yourself that this can change. You can absolutely acquire abilities through learning and practice. Step 2. Take real action and avoid the false growth mindset. After letting go of the attachment to a constrained ego, you need to take action. If someone only has positive thoughts without consistent, concrete action, they are operating from a false growth mindset. It's like constantly injecting your mind with anesthetics without making any real change. One sign of a false growth mindset is believing that effort is everything. In reality, while effort is crucial, it's not the whole story. If a person constantly forces themselves to work non-stop, never allowing a break, their life becomes a frantic chase for achievement, moving from one goal to the next. They might also demand the same from their children and partner, believing they are never working hard enough. How to apply effort. That is the key point a true growth mindset focuses on. Another sign of a false growth mindset is pursuing it to the point of believing, I have a growth mindset, so I can do anything. If you constantly hypnotize yourself with this phrase, it becomes an empty cliche. In reality, we cannot be good at everything. If you preach this to your children, you can do anything. It doesn't actually have a positive effect. The sensible approach is to discover your child's strengths, and the same goes for yourself. Know what you are suited for, where your strengths lie, and then encourage yourself and your children to constantly strive and take on challenges. The most important thing is to master step 1, letting go of the ego, the self. If you can release the ego from the chains of external and internal judgment, let go of negative emotions like anger and sadness. Stop blaming and complaining when things go wrong, and release the fear of failure and the excuses for not trying. Then you will be able to fully focus on yourself. You will see your own strengths and do what you are meant to do. And one of the best ways to take action is through deliberate practice. On this topic, you can refer to another book I've previously recommended. In short, nothing is learned in a single attempt. The most effective way to make progress is to regularly see your own improvement. Start by challenging yourself with small, manageable tasks. Then use deliberate practice to gradually increase the difficulty, constantly pushing your boundaries. Finally, changing your core mindset is not something that happens overnight. It requires you to be persistent and maintain this habit continuously. Through this book, we have learned the crucial difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I hope that through this summary, everyone can reflect on themselves and move towards becoming a person with a growth mindset, walking confidently, strongly, and steadily on the path you choose for yourself. Thanks for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch the latest videos every week. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.